Hey, let's talk about zombies and serial killers on a special Halloween October edition of the Film Threat Podcast. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I am pleased to be joined today by Dahlia Schweitzer, who was on the show previously. We had such a great conversation, and we talked. Okay, Dahlia, we talked like after for a long time and kind of suggested you should watch this, I should watch this. We came up with two movies one's a series, one is a movie that we should talk about, and that's what we're going to do today.
Very Halloween themed.
It is Halloween themed. So we're going to talk about it's on Netflix, a series called Deadset, which was created by Charlie Brooker. And we're also going to talk about a movie called Office Killer, starring Carol Kane.
And Molly Ringwald.
And
Jean Triplehorn.
Oh my God, a great cast for this movie, which I'd never heard of this film. You suggested I watch Office Killer, which I did. I suggested you watch Deadset because you're all into zombies, and I love everything zombies. I couldn't believe you hadn't seen it.
I've never even heard of it.
I can't believe you never heard of it. Well, Charlie Brooker, as many of you probably already know, is the creator of Black Mirror, and that series we're kind of living Black Mirror right now, aren't we?
Yes. Off-screen.
Yeah.
Three-dimensional.
The world is cosplaying as a Black Mirror episode. But Deadset was something I couldn't believe you hadn't heard of. It's one of my favorite zombie series. I had a bootleg copy of it for years, right? Like that I would just like give people on a flash drive, or I would like send them a, G drive link or whatever. But so you got to see it, and I'm really curious what you thought about Deadset.
I have lots of opinions.
Let's hear. I want to know.
It was kind of a roller coaster ride when I was watching it. I always have this sort of like internal monologue going when I'm watching stuff, and I'm always like, oh, there's a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. So when it started off, I was like, oh, okay, I get what this is. This is Unreal meets Dawn of the Dead. Got it. And then it kind of just keeps taking all these twists. And I really liked, I think one of my complaints, and it's actually funny because I'll tell you a secret just between you and me and your audience. I'm not a big zombie fan.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's really it's a crashing disappointment. When I was first writing Going Viral, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get into zombies. Like I'm going to focus on, infections, traditional, blah, blah, blah. And then as I was getting into the book, I was like, oh, I have to talk about zombies. So it was sort of like, okay. And my problem with a lot of zombie movies is that it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And every once in a while, there'll be like a glimmer of something different, like Train to Busan has moments in the beginning, and then it just kind of degenerates into like, oh, it's this again. But whenever there's something that's different from the norm, I feel like I want to just have a party. So like iZombie, I was dragging my feet on watching it, because I was like, I know what this is going to be. And then one of my students actually was like, you have to watch it. And I was like, okay. And then I watched it, and it just blew me away. And I wrote like an academic paper on it, and I presented at a conference, and I've got like a chapter in this book on gender. Like I was like full down the rabbit hole for iZombie. So whenever there's a zombie premise that's like got a twist, then I'm all about it. So when I first started Deadset, I was like, this is brilliant. Because so we started off with like Unreal and Dawn of the Dead, and then we kind of took like a little detour into Shaun of the Dead. Right. And so it was kind of like I was just sort of like checking all the boxes. And by the way, Shaun of the Dead I think is brilliant. The Dawn of the Dead remake by Zack Snyder blew me away 1,000,000 times better than I expected. So like every once in a while when there's something that stands out, I like embrace it. But then the humor, the black comedy is brilliant. and that like sort of saves it from, degenerating into the banal. But I kind of found myself wishing at times that it was a little bit more different than Dawn of the Dead. If that makes sense.
I mean, it's a 5-episode series, Netflix, about a zombie apocalypse that breaks out in the middle of the filming of Big Brother, which I've actually watched a couple of seasons of Big Brother. It was I have certain guilty pleasure reality shows. One of them being 90 Day Fiance. We can have something we probably won't talk about on this podcast, but Deadset I've always loved because I really feel like there's just so much. I think look, zombies are one of the best sort of ways to make social commentary. I feel like,
and I talk about that in my book. They're like a cipher.
Yeah, it's a cipher for commentary. And Charlie Brooker, who, from Black Mirror to a series that I recommended that you also see after Deadset, which is Nathan Barley. We can talk about that in a little bit. But Deadset just has all those elements, including like one of my favorite lines. It's right in the beginning of the first episode. The woman says, do toes have bones in them?
I know.
Do toes have bones in them? What? Like she's just so dim, which is like typical of, reality TV stars tend to not be the brightest bulbs in the bunch, right? Like, they want to be famous for stupid reasons, I guess.
It just reminded me of the Jessica Simpson Chicken of the Sea moment.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. But yeah, so Deadset, and then also just the horrific nature. And I'm thinking of the producer in Deadset.
Amazing. He was like a highlight.
Oh my God, he's such an asshole and he's so callous. And there's a thing that like, what I love is when you see these zombie movies, they'll sort of be a thing they do where like, how come that's never been done in a zombie movies? And one of the things they did is cut up a victim into chunks and use the chunks as a way to distract the zombies so that they could get away safely.
Right.
Obviously things don't go as planned, but the sort of fervor and how much he enjoyed chopping up like a Thanksgiving turkey. This one particular
disturbing.
It was disturbing from the sound standpoint. It's
right.
It's so great that also this is on Netflix. But Deadset has just always been one of my favorites.
I feel like I want to go back and rewatch it, even if just to make a list of all the names that the producer calls the actresses, especially right. Because he calls her, the names he calls her are so demeaning and derogatory and dismissive that I'm just like, this needs to be in sort of like common vernacular. So I feel like I need to go back and watch it again, and then I feel like it will actually be funnier.
Yeah, it does get better on repeated viewings, and one of the things is I've hosted. When humans would get together, just gatherings and watch that with a group of people. It's a crowd pleaser.
Yes. No, I feel like that would be the best way to watch it.
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, see, I know Big Brother, the US version, but they used actual actors from Big Brother. The
host, Davina McCall or whatever her name is.
Right. And she dies. And among others, just so, I mean, Americans don't know the British, reality show stars, but that lent it this authenticity. I'm sure at some point they'll end up being a US remake, which would be awesome because I think reality TV stars are loved and loathed at the same time.
But then it might lose the British humor, which I think is kind of the best part.
True. Well, yeah.
I think for me, the best part was sort of the first half of the season, while you still have some elements of kind of normalcy with the reality television
right.
characters. And just like their sort of vapid nature juxtaposed with like all hell breaking loose, and then like when the producer is upset because they might get delayed because there's news footage, because they're like horrific riots happening in England, and he's just so outraged that could be more important than his reality show and like who's going to get evicted. And it just, right. Yeah, that to me was brilliant.
Yeah. But, and speaking of, so you have to check this out. Deadset. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. And also go down another rabbit hole. I found all the episodes on YouTube. So I'm just going to say it right now, which is the show called Nathan Barley, also from Charlie Brooker, who did Deadset and Black Mirror. And Nathan Barley was so far ahead of its time. It's about this guy named Dan Ashcroft, who writes an article called Rise of the Idiot for a magazine called Sugar Ape. Now, so he writes this article, and everyone reading it are like people that are on their phones constantly, and
hipsters,
morons. Yeah, the idiots, hipster idiots who like, I mean, they make fun of it. There's a shot where like a woman has her pants are just so low you can see sort of the top of business going on. And I was trying to think of the proper way to say that. In any case, so what ends up happening is he writes about these people he despises, hipsters, and then ends up being worshipped by the people he hates. The very people he despises are the ones that think he's so cool. There's a scene actually where Nathan Barley, the character that's sort of based around, he has this website where he shows viral videos, way ahead of its time. And Dan Ashcroft is ordering coffee, and everything he does to change his order, Nathan changes it to be just like him. So he says, oh yeah, just add eggs into my coffee. Nathan orders eggs and adds some salmon. So he orders like a salmon egg coffee, and then like Nathan Barley drinks it, and he's like, he cannot believe how stupid people are. It's sort of the rise of moronic culture, which is kind of, to me, everyone on social media, which is social media. I mean, it's the worst place to have an intelligent discussion is on social media. And I think this predicted it. Then there's a great scene where the publisher of the magazine, and I can totally relate to this as someone who's, been involved in doing print and magazines, they redesigned the logo to Sugar Ape, where it just says rape.
Sugar rape.
Yeah, but the word
sugar is in tiny font.
It's tiny, and then the word rape. And then they make fun of it. And then they show the workers at the office, and they're all playing a game that's basically cock, muff, bunghole.
Oh, but wait, hold on. But they don't make fun of it. That's the whole point.
Right.
They're all talking about how brilliant it is.
Right.
People are going to get worked up because they're going to see the word rape, but it's not really the word rape because it's Sugar Ape. It's just
Sugar Ape.
Rape is pretty much, and like, isn't that funny? And I don't know, it just reminded me of people being like, oh, you just got to pull one over on the libtards, and it just, so you don't, they're not making fun of it. They're like embracing it. They think it's so edgy.
Right. There's just so many great moments from it. And it's so, you're looking at it now, and it's funny to believe that show is like almost 10 years old. Like, it was on the BBC. There was only one season. I think there's like 5 or 6 episodes, and you need to watch the whole thing. I know you only watched the first episode. I
just had to take a breather because I'm already hating humanity as it is. So I have to kind of like there's so much stupidity. It's like, I feel like I could write an article right now called Rise of the Idiots, and it would be about today. So
yes,
I just needed to take a little breather, and then I'll dip my toe back in.
Well, I'll just say this. I miss hating humanity, but I don't get to see humanity all that often anymore. I mean, we're just sort of, what are we? What day is it? It's day 160 to slow the spread. I don't know if the spread is slowed yet.
It's not. It's picking up speed.
The spread is not slowed.
It's only slowing. I think there are like 3 states or something at which we have like fewer cases now than we did last week. And everywhere else, it's like skyrocketing.
I just want to go to the movies. That's all I care about. As much as like I love all the streaming stuff we're seeing, like, rediscovering shows like Deadset and finding other stuff to see on streaming, especially indie movies. To me, cinema is my church. So I got to go
I thought movie theaters were open at like 25% capacity or something. Is that just over here? Okay.
Not Los Angeles. It's only in. I got to drive to Anaheim or San Diego. I drove all the way to Vegas to see Tenet. Like, and
you have a lot of spare time.
Well, initially, I really liked Tenet, and then upon thinking about it, it's completely more confusing than it really needs to be, and it's kind of a big budget, overwrought version of the Child's Game of Opposite Day.
Okay.
And you'll understand that after you see Tenet, which kind of bombed at the bottom. Tenet was going to sort of usher in, like, people are going back to movie theaters.
Right.
And the second weekend it opened, it made $6.7 million, which is garbage. That's like
people aren't going back to movie theaters.
No, people are not going back to movies. This is what kills me, and this is what I've been screaming about on the podcast and also to friends in the industry, is that habits can be broken, right? Like, drive-in movie screens. The drive-in was something people did, and at their height in the 60s, there were almost 6,000 drive-in movie theaters in the United States. It was a phenomenon. I also think it's the only place teenagers could become intimate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was, much of the popularity of drive-ins had to do with a place for teenagers to get it on. But
plus cars were fun and new, and it was cool to hang out in your car.
Yeah, well, gasoline-powered cars, although those are going to be gone in 2035, according to Gavin Newsom. We'll see how that goes. But now there's less than, it's about 350, between 350 and 400 drive-in screens, a lot of pop-ups now. I'm glad the drive-ins are back. I've been going every week, but I miss that. I miss that. So, but yeah, I don't know that a lot of new movies are going to come out between now and the end of the year, with the exception of independent films, which independent films have been virtually unaffected because they just come to VOD anyways.
Right.
I mean, movie theaters were always a way for indie films to just get reviewed in New York and LA. So you four-walled and did one theater in New York, one in LA. You'd get reviews by the major outlets, whatever those are considered these days. I joke that there are more outlets covering movies than movies being made in a year. True, but yeah, I think this habit has gone away, and I think people are genuinely afraid. I am not afraid. I wear a mask and I wash my hands, and isn't that what we're supposed to do? And
I went to a museum for the first time since the
pandemic.
What was that
started. Like?
Amazing. I felt almost normal.
Wow, a museum.
A museum.
What was at the museum?
There was an exhibit on Studio 54 at the Brooklyn Museum, which just recently opened not that long ago. And they had, I think they were at 25% capacity. Oh, there's my cat. It was at like 25% capacity. And I wore a mask, and it was totally fine because people don't get too close to each other at museums, and they don't talk too much. And so it was really ideal.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get into too much of that right now, I guess, but yeah, I just want things to open up. I think that if we follow the rules.
I know, but we don't follow the rules. That's why I had to take a break from Nathan. See, it all comes full circle.
Oh my God. All right.
The idiots.
You need to, the next time we talk, please watch Nathan Barley and we'll discuss it. We should talk about our second film, Office Killer, which I thoroughly enjoyed. First of all, I'm a little pissed off at myself for not having heard of this film ever.
No one has. You're a good company.
This is awesome because I love to discover. I'm usually the one saying, you've never heard of this movie. Let me tell you all about this movie because I know more than you. But I never make that assumption. I know a lot about a lot of things that are sort of obscure and bizarre. But Office Killer, never heard of. It's produced by Christine Vachon, whose company Killer Films has an amazing. She did the movie Boys Don't Cry, among others. Like she really has an eclectic taste when it comes to curating and bringing to fruition many films, right?
And
so,
executive producer James Schamus and Ted Hope.
Exactly.
And it's like caliber people.
Ted Hope, one of my favorites. He was a producer behind Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I'm such a fan of that movie. I actually have Eternal Popcorn of the Spotless Mind, which is, I'll send you, it's rosemary salted caramel. I'll send you a bag or two of this.
That's amazing.
This is put out by my friend Christian Maioli, has a movie theater in Los Angeles called Arena Cine Lounge, and you can get this. But yeah, Ted Hope.
Is Arena Cine Lounge the one that's on Sunset Boulevard?
Yes, it is. It's down from the ArcLight, and it's
I used to work out there in its incarnation.
Oh wow! I used to not work out there, but it's they premiere a lot of indie films that are that you would just never hear about otherwise, right?
Okay.
Right down the street from the ArcLight.
Yeah, I wondered what they did. I didn't know what they did.
Yeah, so Arena Cine Lounge, so they put out a brand of popcorn. The whole idea behind it is it's not like touched by hands, right? It's pre-packaged so you can take it to the movies.
Love it.
Pretty cool. But in any case, yeah, so how do we go off on these tangents?
That's just the best part.
Look, Apologies to
We
viewers.
were talking about Ted Hope, Eternal Sunshine, and then it went to popcorn.
Yes, well, this is what it's like to just have like a normal conversation with me,
And me.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, good. So there's yeah. But back to Office Killer. Never heard of this movie. It's a first of all, this is rare. It's a female serial killer movie. Carol Kane plays this kind of mousy, demure woman who ends up inadvertently killing her first victim, which leads to more victims. I do like that she is a cat person. I am also a cat person. I think it is I think dogs, to me, they're too needy. It's like having a 3 or a 4-year-old child that cannot speak, and therefore I am a cat person. I even went to CatCon in Pasadena.
Wow.
Yes. So what can I say? In any case, Carol Kane it's just a series of things that escalate, and you really kind of feel for her because these people all deserve to die for some reason or another. I mean, this is why you're on her side. And I don't want to spoil what happens at the end, but, and also there's just not a lot of female serial killer movies. And the other actors in this movie, Molly Ringwald, Jean Triplehorn, just really great cast.
And I would also like to interject and say that she thinks she's protecting them by killing them. So
right.
There's actually kind of nuance. It's not just a sort of classic slasher kind of horror movie. She thinks she's by killing them and bringing them home to her basement, she thinks she's protecting them.
Right.
So one of the things that I argue in my book is that Jean Triplehorn is the true villain in that movie.
Well, it is. There are a lot of office politics. It reminds me of why. First, I'm reminded when I see that movie of why I don't work in an office. I loathed working in an office when I did, which the last time I really worked in a traditional office was in the 90s when I worked in publishing, and I hated it. What I discovered was, one, I don't like working in an office because I feel like there's so many things that have nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
And I realized as soon as I didn't work in an office, I could get what I got done in an office in an 8-hour day, I could get done in 3 hours. 3 hours in an 8-hour day in an office. It's like, oh, cool. You mean we're not deciding to go to Tony Roma's for someone's birthday that I did shit about? And I got to sign a birthday card and okay. And then I'm like, okay, I got shit to do. I want to get out of work on time. I don't want to have to stay late. So
I had a very brief window when I worked in a corporate job, and we were always having meetings to talk about the work that we should be doing. And I was like, let me just skip the meeting and just go do my job.
That was me. I couldn't understand. I'm not a fan of, I despise meetings. I think meetings should have agendas and purposes and what's the point of this meeting. And then I realized that a lot of people who work in those traditional corporate jobs, they set up a lot of meetings because it looks like they're busy.
I know, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So you figured out
I had no patience for it. I'm hyper efficient. I get things done in half the time it takes other people. And so I wouldn't stay late because I would get my work done. And then, I'm not kidding, my job started to have you had to sign in and out so they could keep track of your hours, so that they could see how late you were staying. And then it became this sort of alpha male thing to see who would stay later. And that's when I quit, because I was like, I'm not going to stay until 8 just to look cool.
Philosophically speaking, when it comes to offices, I'd never cared about that whole 9 to 5 thing. And this company that I worked for wanted me to keep track. I worked my way up to middle management. And then I began to fucking hate myself. So because the company wanted me to keep track if people came in late, and they would write it down. The receptionist would write down if someone came in 15 minutes late. Now, I don't care. I'm a results-oriented person when it comes to work. I don't give a shit. People that work with Film Threat, you did 3 reviews this week. Great. That's results. I don't care how you manage your time. I don't care when you did it. You're a night owl. You're early morning riser. I don't care. So
Right.
I've been virtual office since probably the late 90s, early 2000s. But I had to break myself of bad habits that I got from working in a traditional office. So with the pandemic and the lockdown, it has virtually affected me not in any way, with the exception that we used to have a studio where we would record the Film Threat podcast, and now we do everything. Everything is a Zoom call now.
Right.
Award shows are Zoom calls. And, everything is a freaking Zoom call, which I'm kind of getting sick of. But yeah, I feel like I sort of developed my own habits so once I figured out I could do an 8-hour job in 3 hours, I just got myself more jobs.
Right.
So like book projects and Film Threat and film projects. And now I'm basically doing 3 full-time jobs in the same time as a normal job, but I'm using those efficiency methods that I kind of developed by despising the corporate world.
This all sounds very familiar.
Oh, good. So it seemed to me like you have the same experience. So, okay. So these are 2 movies that we recommend, especially for October. Deadset, you got to see it. Office Killer, if you can find it. Here's what's funny. You gave me some Gmail Drive link or whatever to watch it. I don't know if Office Killer is commercially available.
Well, so here's the thing. So when I was writing the book, it was on Netflix. No, don't get excited. It was on Netflix, which was a dream, because then people would be like, what is this weird movie? And I'd be like, oh, it's on Netflix. And then Miramax, who knew that I was putting out this book, by the way, we can get into my fight with Miramax whenever you want. But I had a fight with Miramax. But they knew that the book was coming out, and then they took it off Netflix. And so now it's, as far as I know, it's impossible to find unless you buy the DVD.
I feel like people listening or watching this are pretty resourceful.
And they can always email me.
Yes. Email Dahlia for sure. You can, you're on, I feel like everybody's so easy to reach now.
Yeah. You can find me online.
Yeah. You can be found. Okay. So, 2 great recommends. What are we going to watch next time? I have some ideas.
Tell me.
Well, Nathan Barley for one, and then I suggested a movie by Kaveh Zahidi.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
So Kaveh Zahidi made, I think he's a brilliant filmmaker, but he's one of the weirdest guys you'll ever meet. You'll understand. He made a movie called In the Bathtub of the World, where this was early before vlogs were a thing, right? He filmed himself every day for a year. He filmed himself for at least a minute or whatever. And what he did was he edited it together into one movie. So it's him doing sort of a video diary every day. And it was the year that 9/11 happened.
Oh,
So
wow.
you see his personal life and what's happening with that, the ups and downs. Obviously he condensed it, here's a year in someone's life. Really amazing. I mean, he's I would describe him as like an experimental filmmaker. And then he also did a show called I think it's called The Show with No Name, or The Show About the Show. That's not what it is. And it was on IFC, and it's basically, the show is about developing a TV show, but he can't come up with a name for the show. It's a series. Okay. Then he did a film. This is the one I will recommend. It's called I Am a Sex Addict.
Okay.
But it's not what you think. It's not sexually exploitative. I don't even remember if there's nudity in it or at all. But
I'm over 18.
Our audience, the Film Threat audience, handle it. But I would recommend it. When I did this segment on Attack of the Show called TV Tuesday, it was one that I would recommend. And then years later, I met the Duplass brothers and found that they were a huge fan. Mark and Jay Duplass, who did movies like The Puffy Chair, whatnot. I met them at South by Southwest. When that movie comes up, it's like a favorite of indie filmmakers. It's like this sort of secret, and I've bought that movie so many times used on standard def DVD on Amazon. I Am a Sex Addict, and it's not what you think. It does deal with Kaveh Zahidi. He's sort of revisiting old relationships with girlfriends, and then he casts women actresses to actually play his old girlfriends and kind of like reenact like moments from the relationship and why it broke down. It's like part experimental. It's sort of like, in a way, I describe it as kind of a punk rock Annie Hall. Like it's really cool, and I always get choked up at the end.
Aw, you're a softie.
We will find out if you do as well.
Okay.
Okay, so next time we get together, we're going to talk about wait, do you have a suggestion for something I should watch?
Well, first of all, I just wanted, do you want more trivia from Office Killer?
Yeah, well, first of all, yes, more trivia Office Killer, and I have to hear this Miramax story.
Oh, okay. So I wrote a book on Office Killer, which kind of happened because nobody was watching it. And I was like, I don't understand why people aren't watching this movie. And you buried the lead, which is that the movie's directed by Cindy Sherman, who is one of the most influential American photographers working today. And this is her only movie. And one of the reasons it's her only movie is so she famously works alone. She doesn't even, like, she has an assistant who is offsite because she can't, she said, like, when she tried having an assistant who was in the office, she just was like spending all her energy trying to make sure the assistant was comfortable and like felt busy and okay and like wasn't getting any work done. But she's such a nice person.
Can I just say, I feel that way. I used to have interns.
Yeah.
You know, I would have interns on occasion. I can't do it because I feel like the manager. Then I always feel like if anyone's over at my place, it's like I'm the host.
Exactly.
I get something to drink. What can I make it? That's a weird thing for my family. It's just like
same thing. Yeah. So whenever she's working on her photographs, she's always alone in the studio. So she's kind of famous for working that way. So James Schamus and Ted Hope had this idea for making a series of smart horror films. That was sort of the concept. And so then they approached Christine Vachon and said, hey, we want to do this. Do you have any interest in being involved? And then Christine Vachon's partner showed at Metro Pictures, which is where Cindy Sherman has showed her photographs from like the 1970s on. So that's how Cindy got involved. And then, I don't know if you know Carol Clover, who wrote the book. I'm sure you didn't read the book, but the Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Oh, I'm familiar with that book.
Okay.
It's a great title.
Right. And she wrote about like the concept of the final girl, who is like the last woman standing in like slasher films.
Right.
So when I was talking to James Schamus, when I was interviewing him, I found out that Carol Clover had been his advisor when he'd been in grad school. And so he organized a dinner at his apartment that was him, Christine Vachon, Carol Clover, and I think Cindy was also there. And he said it was just like one of those things where like he wished he had like a secret camera to record it because they're all sort of talking about, you know, gender and horror films and all that. But anyway, so Cindy got sort of convinced to try this, you know, this newfangled thing out called cinema, and she made this movie. And then the reviews were horrible.
Really?
Horrible. Just the movie. So there was a couple things going on. One is that was a period of time where Miramax was like buying movies sight unseen, and then they would like have focus groups, and then they would decide how to market it and whether to market it and what to do. So Miramax bought it sight unseen. They had some focus groups for teenage boys who, of course, didn't get it. And then they just shelved it. So the movie was out in theaters for like a week. And then what else is crazy is, so the movie's not really like artsy, right? So all these art world critics kind of looked down their nose at it, and they were like, you know, well, this, because it can't be horror. It's like, it's got a great sense of humor. So the reviews were horrible. The review in the New York Times basically said, like, you know, Cindy's had so much good luck with her photographs that it'll be good for her character to have a little bit of failure. I mean, it was just like low blow. And so Cindy's never made another movie again.
Wow. Well, it's weird. A couple things. One, focus groups are what Quentin Tarantino affectionately called fuckus groups. He despised focus groups, and I think we can all attest to the fact that like Tarantino's movies have never been focus group tested or gave a shit. I really loved Office Killer. I don't know why. I think that just because it sort of flipped the script on many different levels.
Right.
But I understand what they meant because I made a film that kind of got the same reaction. I did a movie years ago that I co-wrote and produced called My Big Fat Independent Movie, which is a spoof comedy about independent film. And well, come to find out that the audience that loves independent film and art films don't like fart jokes. And the audience that likes fart jokes and lowbrow humor, they don't know what independent films are. So even like one of the marketing tags was the lowbrow comedy for the highbrow crowd, and which is why the movie failed.
Right.
So, I mean, we did actually, I won't say it failed. It played like 40 film festivals, was released by Anchor Bay. I think you can buy like used DVDs on Amazon for like $2 of my film.
I'll look for it.
And yeah, My Big Fat Independent. I'm proud of a few aspects of it, but not a perfect movie. But it's my first attempt at a big feature, right? So in any case, yeah. So it was the same thing. It was like finding that balance, and I understand that it wasn't like hardcore enough for hardcore
exactly
horror audiences, but it wasn't artsy enough, say, like American Psycho,
right,
which I thought was American Psycho with Christian Bale's fucking fantastic. I mean,
right.
That movie like holds up to today. And I saw that film actually at Sundance when it premiered with Christian Bale there being very like
here's Bowie.
Surprised at all the surprised at the reaction to that movie, but it still holds up to today. I love that.
But I feel like Office Killer holds up.
I feel like it does hold up, but I feel like I never even knew it existed.
No, nobody knows it existed.
And I feel like this is its comeuppance. So there you go. Office Killer.
It's been my mission to kind of, one nice thing is that now the movie gets included in exhibitions of her work. So like they had a big show of her work at the National Portrait Gallery, and the movie was now included.
I'm going with the Chiron that we have.
I know. I see.
To buy something, if you go to shop.filmthreat.com, help us out. But in any case, yeah.
But yeah, so the movie is now slowly being included, and like she had a big show at the Broad in LA, and they screened Office Killer, and they actually had Office Killer on loop as part of the exhibit. So slowly, at least, people are starting to know about it.
Well, it's a great forgotten film. I mean, there are like sort of, I do have gaps. I mean, like I know a lot about a lot of weird movies, but there are gaps for me. And that was certainly one of them. I mean, I can't believe I missed it. It's something I definitely would have liked, but all right.
It also becomes this really interesting time capsule for America in 1997. And you have these great moments where it's like email is being integrated into the workplace.
Oh my God. The whole thing of like where there's this whole conversation about email and
I know
how to use it and faxing and this, and then also just like totally related to, you got to get this article done by a certain time, deadline, whatever. Like, it's just like, oh my God. I'm like looking at this going, it was, for me, it was a little traumatic from the standpoint of it reminded me of when I was in the corporate workspace, and I hated it. I mean, since the late 90s, I've had a just bizarre career, but I've taken all those lessons or the things I learned not to do and taken it into my entrepreneurship in terms of doing Film Threat and various other projects and whatnot. And it was like a flashback to a time in my life that I fucking hated myself and hated working in an office and couldn't stand these insane, stupid rules that basically insisted that you be in a certain place between a certain time. And this is how your life had to be. And it was soul sucking. And
the movie tries to capture that.
Yeah, it does capture that.
Constant consumer magazine. I mean, it's like it's just.
Yeah, the movie was ahead of its time. For sure. I think that, look, if there are some positives that come out of this lockdown, global pandemic, whatever, it's accelerated things that probably should happen, which is more telecommuting, working at home, working from anywhere, and whatnot. So, okay. So we're going to talk about, I don't know, maybe we'll surprise everyone we'll surprise everyone. Next time you and I chat, we're gonna talk about 2 other films that you need to see, and I think hopefully it'll be as interesting as conversation as this was.
I mean, I can tell you right now that one of my favorite movies is Safe by Todd Haynes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want to. It's obviously very different from what you suggested, but
yes. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about 2 films. We're going to surprise you. Okay. I want to thank you, Dahlia. I want to thank you for being on the Film Threat podcast.
Thank you
for tolerating my disjointed conversational.
I love it.
And I also want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. If you go to storyblocks.com/filmthread, they're a big supporter of our show. Go to storyblocks.com/filmthread. Dahlia Schweitzer, always a pleasure to speak to you. This is amazing.
I love it.
We're having fun, and I hope that you will comment, whether you comment on social media or comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube.
Maybe the audience can even make suggestions for things we should watch, and then
even better.
Fight about.
Okay, even better. Suggest 2 movies that Dahlia and I should watch, and then we will discuss them. And thank you Dahlia for being on the Film Threat podcast.
Thank you.